The subconscious mind is a repository for all of our experiences, and there is a negativity bias. So anything bad that happens, well, that definitely gets stored in our subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind has been shown to make our decisions for us. Technicians looking at, brain scanners can actually predict what choice you're going to make up to 7 seconds before you make the choice.
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who is out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode. Hey, welcome to The Exploding Human. My name is Bob Nickman. My guest today is Ravinder Taylor, and we're going to be talking about mind science and the research she's been doing for over 30 years. Some of the things we'll be talking about is the science of rewiring the brain, mental habits and self-sabotaging behaviors and how we can change those, the role of mindfulness, neuroplasticity, and emotional intelligence. We're also going to be talking about the unconscious mind and how to access that to change things. She also has a personal story of how she was able to heal herself from rheumatoid arthritis by accessing parts of her mind as well as supplementation. One of the things I always like talking about is belief systems and how they can rule our behaviors when we don't really want them to, and how we can rewire our brain for maximum wellness. So let's jump into it. This is Ravinder Taylor. Thank you for being on The Exploding Human. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me on, Bob. It's an honor to be with you.
Well, it's my pleasure. You're in Spokane, Washington. I'm in Los Angeles. So we're both in the U.S., but you've had an interesting past from the biography I read of you. How do we want to start this?
So I have been researching the power of the mind. I've been doing it, just for myself. I've been exploring it for the last 30 years. I'm interested in science. But more importantly, when it comes to the power of the mind and the research that's going on out there, I'm much more interested in the practical applications. How can we use this information to improve our lives? How can I use it myself to become a better person, to actualize my full potential, to eliminate those self-sabotaging behaviors that we all have in some area or another. So that's my real passion.
Well, I think about these things a lot, what the belief systems that I have that aren't serving me and may not be true and usually aren't that true. And so, I get what this is. I sometimes feel like I'm a slave to my thoughts, which is, torturous when it's happening. And I know there's people that actually have, anxiety issues and, compulsive thoughts that are, intrusive, and they really are, hamstrung in their daily life. I'm not like that, but I could see how somebody could be like that, because sometimes I start thinking about stuff and I'm like, why am I even thinking this? This is just not helping at all. And then you try to stop thinking about it, which makes you think about it even more.
It does indeed. So therefore you have to take your thoughts elsewhere. And once you're aware of how much power you actually have, it's difficult. Often with the teachings that I do, it can often sound a bit like your mom telling you to eat your vegetables. You want to sit up straight, put your shoulders back, breathe, it's all basic stuff. And I think most of us have this tendency to ignore that kind of advice, when it comes from our parents. So what I've tried to do with my work is actually look at all the science behind it, provide all the evidence for it, actually demonstrate what can happen when you put these things into practice, what kind of impact it can have on your short-term life and the long term as well. So it's all very much, the practical applications.
What do you usually start with? Can we do an example of something?
One of the things that I will frequently do when someone comes to me and says that they have a particular issue and they've had it for a long time, I will often ask them to look back to try and see where the issue started.
Mm-hmm.
There is a time to look backwards at a problem, and there is a time just to go forwards. So you don't always have to delve into exactly where a problem started. One of the things that you will often find out is when you do that, there isn't just one event in the past that is causing the problem that you have today. Sometimes, frequently, it can be something happened in the past, but then there can be other events that reinforce that learning, that reinforce that need to be protective in this area or that area. So you take, for example, someone regarding personal relationships. You can have someone that says, I always choose the wrong person. Well, you can go back and say, well, perhaps all the role models I had when I was a child, that's why I do it. But it's not only going to be that, it's going to be compounded by other experiences that come along. It's how I got into this in the first place. I became interested in hypnotherapy. And I actually underwent hypnotherapy first of all. And in the process, what he did was he looked at the issue that I was trying to improve. And then he went back in time under hypnosis, went back in time to ask the subconscious mind the ages at which something happened that exacerbated this issue. So he just counted me back in time and he implemented the ideomotor response that causes a finger to rise. So he would count back from 20, 19, 18. That was all the different years. And whenever there was a year where there was something that triggered this kind of response, my finger would rise. And that was how I learned that, there isn't just one event. There's lots of things that will reinforce it. And so under hypnosis, over the whole course of it, we would go back one by one to look at the emotional event. And what happens is when it becomes known to you, it will frequently lose its power. And sometimes it can feel like magic, but it isn't magic. Your subconscious mind isn't trying to hurt you with these self-sabotaging behaviors. It's actually trying to protect you, but it's using information that is old, that doesn't hold up. So just because you're embarrassed as a child doesn't mean there was any need to really be embarrassed at that. So I have an example there where I had an event at school. It was a school production and one of the other kids wasn't there. So I had to play two roles. One of the roles I had was just doing the sound effect for horse hooves. So I had these two coconut shells that I would just crack together to have the sound of the horses. But then I had to do the narration portion. That was what this other kid was supposed to have done. And so I had to quickly put down these coconut shells, pick up this piece of paper that had my script on it. I must have looked a bit clumsy. The audience laughed. They weren't being mean, but I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
And so that fear, as I discovered, played a role in my phobia about public speaking. I was afraid of being embarrassed. But looking back at it now, I know that the parents in the audience weren't being mean. I do know that it wasn't a big deal today. But until that information made itself known to me, my subconscious mind was still using it. And so as a result, my automatic reaction to any kind of public speaking or interviews was a flat out refusal. I just wouldn't do it. And that in itself created obstacles in my career pathway. There are instances in your career where you have to speak to other people. If you can't speak to other people, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing. Those things that happen as kids. I had a similar thing. It wasn't public speaking. It was a school event at someone's home. Like we all went to lunch there. I must have been like second, third grade, really young, and we played this game. And for some reason, they decided if you were eliminated from the game, you had to crawl through the legs of the other students, and they would paddle you with their hands. This is stupid, but So I got eliminated, and I went through, and this one kid hit me really hard, like it hurt, and I started to chase him because I was mad, and I was sure I was going to catch him and take care of it, and I fell, and the entire class laughed at me, and I made a decision at that moment that I would never do anything where people would have the opportunity to laugh at me. Humiliation, I guess, is what the feeling was. And I made that decision right there. I remember thinking, this will never happen to me again if I can prevent it. And consequently, I made moves to have that not happen, which is to not participate in certain things or to go after somebody before they could get me if I perceived that they were somebody that could do that to me. Guarantee you, not one person from that moment, within an hour of that happening, didn't think about it for 1 second. I was the only one that was thinking about it. Nothing ever was brought up again, but it was there. It was like the seed that was there. It was so painful at the time. I don't know, if nothing like that had ever happened to me, I don't know. I was a kid, but it's an interesting thing that was there. And I remember just saying to myself, this will never happen to me again. I remember it's distinctly telling myself that.
You have an advantage there, though, because you do remember it distinctly. Frequently,
Yeah.
self-sabotaging behaviors that we are oblivious to. We're just not aware of it. We don't see those associations. The subconscious mind is a repository for all of our experiences, and there is a negativity bias. So anything bad that happens, well, that definitely gets stored in our subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind has been shown to make our decisions for us. Technicians looking at, brain scanners can actually predict what choice you're going to make up to 7 seconds before you make the choice. So, and all of this information comes from the subconscious mind. They've actually demonstrated that there's activity in the subconscious mind up to 7 seconds before you make a choice. In these experiments, they were very simple choices. So am I going to use my right hand or my left hand to press this button? Something really basic like that. But they could see that the information, the choice is coming from the subconscious mind. We need to have a respect for our subconscious minds. We need to understand the negativity bias so that we're going to hold on to negative things, humiliations, things that have upset us. And that information, those choices are going to come out automatically from the subconscious mind. Today, if you had that same instance and you fell over, you would probably laugh with the other people today. It's not a big deal. Or you would get up on your feet and chase him again and really beat the hell out of him. Who knows? But it wouldn't hurt you today like it did then. As children, these things are huge. Being embarrassed, being humiliated, they have a great impact. And that comes from us being herd animals. We need the approval of society. If we can't be special, we at least want to be normal. We don't want to be the one who is shunned by society. We need, the herd society to take care of us for us to function. So these things just become that they have a much greater importance than they need to.
I think about this concept of free will, and there's not very much of it really when you think about all that. It's you can overcome these things obviously and thrive in a different way, but it's certainly that sort of visceral automatic response is usually there. How long it lasts and how much it affects you is where the power can come from, I think, later. But, certainly I haven't gotten past a lot of that stuff in terms of my first initial reaction. But I think that's where sort of adulthood and maturity and mindfulness and, certain practices, you can really not have that rule what you're going to do, which is kind of the goal, I think, is to be able to, do it anyway, even when your first thought is I'm going to run or I'm going to attack or, that's fight and flight thing is kind of big.
It is. And I love the whole conversation about free will. You're totally correct. Lots of the brightest minds in the world will tell you categorically that free will doesn't exist. And when you look at these experiments that show activity in the subconscious mind before you make a choice, well, that just provides even more evidence. There is always some precursor. There's going to be a prior experience that is going to press your buttons. Maybe your genes, you're genetically wired for something. There's always going to be something. So what I say is free will isn't free, but there is a place where we can access it. When you understand that the choices are being made in the subconscious mind, then you can learn how the subconscious mind gets programmed in the first place. You can take charge of that programming to make it more positive. So if you have a fear of social situations, you're going to be aware that whenever something like that comes along, you're going to be talking to yourself, and that talk, which is a mirror of your inner beliefs, is going to go along the lines of, I hate this, I'm no good at this, people don't like me, I don't know why I bothered coming here in the first place. And all of that stuff can become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you're anticipating no one's going to like you, well, then you're not going to be out there talking, being affable, smiling, laughing. You're going to shrink into your little corner. And that's what people are going to see. And then they're not going to come up to you because you don't look approachable. So you want to take charge of all of that stuff. One of the tools that we have, now this is only one tiny aspect of what I cover in mind training, but we have the Inner Talk programs. My husband is RAVINDER Taylor. He is the creator of the Inner Talk subliminal technology. It's a patented technology, so it's totally different to anything else out there. It's also the only such technology in the marketplace that has been researched by numerous independent universities and institutions and been demonstrated effective at priming how you talk to yourself. So take as an example, say if you're depressed, you're having a bad day at work or something, you're going to be talking to yourself along the lines of, I hate my life, I'm no good, people don't like me, I can't do anything. It's all going to be negative. If you can replace that self-talk, that automatic self-talk, with positive talk that says, I'm happy, I can do this, people like me. Well, just think about it for a moment, Bob. Can you be depressed when you're telling yourself, when your inner voice is telling you, this is fun, I'm enjoying life, I can do this? And that's what the Inner Talk technology will do, the Inner Talk subliminal programs. It overcomes that negativity bias because these positive affirmations are repeated over and over again. It bypasses the automatic reaction we have, that conscious century that will argue back to a positive affirmation. So you can have an affirmation such as, I am good. But then that little voice can come back and say, what does good mean? Good at what? I'm not really good because I could have been more patient with my child, or I should have been kinder in that situation. There was that homeless man down the street. I only gave him 50 cents. I should have given him $10. Poor guy, he's starving. So you have these things that come back that will argue against the positivity, and it builds off that negativity bias and everything that is in your subconscious mind. But the inner talk programs bypass all of that, and it goes directly into your subconscious mind. So that is just one of the tools whereby you can program the subconscious mind directly to support whatever goals you have. If you're trying to lose weight, better relationships, greater success at work, more prosperity. There are so many beliefs that we have where we sabotage ourselves.
You talked about this negativity bias, and I used to say, and I didn't know about this, but I used to say this all the time. The negative thoughts seem more truthful to me. They seem more real. When I'm doing the positive things, they seem naive and Pollyanna, and I'm just trying to convince myself that life is a certain way when I actually know that it's not. And I used to say that, like the negative thoughts seem more real. I knew that they weren't helping me, but are they more real? Not really. But now that you're calling it a bias, that's sort of the human condition. Maybe that's a survival thing, because if you're not aware of danger, which is a kind of a scary negative thing in a sense, you're going to die. You're going to get killed. You're going to be eaten, whatever that is. So there's a survival piece to that makes a lot of sense. But we're sort of past that, as we're not living in that situation like we used to be, living with wild animals and things. But it's still there, as a survival thing. I used to say this to people. The negative thoughts seem more truthful, and I'm all about truth.
I hear you, Bob. I'm very much into truth as well, but it's the negativity bias that is going to tell you that the negative stuff is more truthful than the other. There's also, you have to be aware, society today, when it comes to positivity, there are lots of people who will put it down. They knock it. They laugh at positivity. And once again, we are herd animals. We don't want to be in the group that is being laughed at. We don't want to do things that the rest of the herd will say is silly. So that's gonna play a role in it. But again, I come back to the science of positivity and optimism. The amount of evidence out there that shows the positive benefits of being optimistic. There was a longitudinal nurses study where these nurses would keep journals. And what they found was the optimistic women, the people who were more optimistic, would have drastically reduced likelihoods of dying from, like a 16% reduced chance of dying from cancer, 38% lower risk of dying from respiratory disease, 52% lower risk of dying from infection. That's pretty startling. But then you look at even more of this. There is 2 research studies that just got my attention. You know how certain things just hit home to you. These 2 different research studies, one looked at baseball cards, and the other one looked at high school photographs. And what they found was they were able to predict how long people would live based on how they were smiling. So if they had a small smile on their face in these pictures, they would live on average 2 years longer. If they had a big smile, the full Duchenne smile, that's the kind of smile that makes your eyes wrinkle up, that give you all those laughter lines. If they had the big Duchenne smile on, they would live 7 years longer. And then when you go into it even further, people who are happy and smiling, they have better relationships, they have greater success at work, they have greater success in finances, they actually earn more over their lifetime. So when you have all of the scientific evidence, and there are lots of different scientific research studies that are done in this area, and I go through a lot of it. I think you have to hammer home the idea of how important it is when you see the direct correlations coming from all of these different directions, then you're a whole lot more likely to put them into effect, to actually stop and say, okay, I'm afraid of XYZ happening. But what if I play around with the idea that the worst possible thing isn't going to happen? Perhaps it won't happen at all. Perhaps it won't happen in its worst variation. What would my life look like then? So when you start practicing thinking of it that way, when you say, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. It could be good, it may not be,
Yeah.
but there's no point wasting today worrying about it.
Well, that's all true. It's all true.
Exactly. So if I can picture a good outcome, I'm going to feel better today. And if the worst possible thing does happen, I'm going to be in a stronger place. I will be in a much healthier place to be able to deal with it at that time. And there are all of these other benefits to thinking more positively. They've even found that the more optimistic you are today, the fewer stressful situations you will have in the future. It's not that life magically changes. It's the fact that you're not fretting over everything. Things aren't blowing up out of proportion. So you actually have fewer stressful events. And so your life is happier.
Yeah, it's a perspective change. So the same event might affect you one way one day and a different way the next day, depending on your perspective. You know, I've even experimented with smiling, forcing myself to smile when I don't really feel like it, just to see, you know, it's like the action leads to the emotional change. Just that simple thing of just smiling. And even though sometimes when it's fake, it's fine actually. To even experiment like that. It's an interesting exercise. Another exercise I've done, and then I've, suggested to some people, is to every single person you meet today, let's just say today, you give them a compliment, and it has to be sincere. You've got to mean it, which means you've got to look for it, and you've got to say it. And what happens when you do that is incredible. By the way, I love your glasses.
Thank you.
See, we both smiled and laughed, and I meant it. I do love your glasses, and so that's an experiment that I don't know if that's in any of the books you've written, but it's a simple trick where the action comes first, even if you act your way into better thinking. Basically,
there absolutely is. I think you just got a natural instinct, Bob. Two things that you just went through. You talked about forcing a smile on your face. When I first came across this evidence that shows putting on a smile will produce endorphin, even if you just put a pencil between your teeth, that forces a smile, your brain will produce endorphin, which is one of the happy brain chemicals. You are going to feel happier automatically. There was this other research that was done out of Cardiff University, where they found that people who had Botox to reduce their laughter lines were actually more depressed.
Oh, that's horrific.
The people that
oh, that's terrible. I don't know why I'm laughing, because they're going for the opposite. They're going for health and beauty,
exactly,
or
the
something.
people that had Botox to reduce the frown lines.
Mm-hmm.
If they reduced the frown lines, they were happier. If they reduced the laughter lines, they were sadder. So there is definitely that effect that goes into place.
Well, we are interesting creatures.
It is a two-way street.
Yeah.
And we have a whole lot more power than we think. One of the exercises that I will do these days, so there are days that we wake up and we're just cranky. At least I do. Okay, Bob, I wake up, I'm just in a bad mood. Biology can push you in that
absolutely.
direction.
Of course.
But I am aware today, I know today that there are things that I can do to switch that around. So if I find myself in a bad mood, I will correct my posture, because when you're depressed, your posture goes down, your shoulders drop, your back curves. I will stand up straight. I will take some big diaphragmatic breaths where I actually feel my diaphragm expanding. I'm not breathing shallow. I will put a smile on my face. If I can, I will step outdoors, feel the fresh air, feel the sun. When you just being out in the sun, your brain will automatically produce serotonin as well. So the happy brain chemicals. When I wash my hands, I will take just a couple of seconds to appreciate the feeling of the warm water on my hands. I become very mindful of the process. I can be grateful that I've got warm water to wash my hands in and not cold water. Then I will look up in the mirror and I will smile at myself and I will tell myself, you've got this, Ravinder. It's okay. It's going to be a good day. So there's all of these things. And when I started off, I said it can sound like your mom telling you to have your vegetables. But these things are all have a scientific basis to them. They definitely work. You just have to start doing it, and you have to turn off those people who tell you, oh, that's silly, that's just overly optimistic, that's just pretending. Try it. All I would say is try it.
Try it.
And
Exactly.
you'll see how much better
Right.
you feel. And bringing this back to the free will argument, there is a precursor to everything that goes on. But if you try these things for yourself and your life improves, then you become part of somebody else's experience. Those people around you will see you. They will be aware how you used to be always negative, always down in the dumps. And now you're happier. And now you've got better friendships. You've got better relationships. They can see your life improving. They see your life, and that becomes part of their experience. So they say, maybe I'll try that myself. It worked for him. It worked for her. Maybe I'll try it. So the whole free will example, the whole free will argument, free will isn't free, but when you claim it, you can create a much better life for yourself. You have a whole lot more power. And when you do that, you become an example for everyone else. You become the change that you want to see in the world.
Like you said, you just got to do it. That's the difference, I think, between those of us that are willing to try something, and not have contempt before we try it. That's kind of a dangerous thing. And I did that for a long time. It's like, I'm not doing that. It's the first thing I would say. So if somebody made a suggestion, and so I've proved it without actually proving it, just because I wanted it to be a certain way, on the negative. So trying these things is really an interesting experiment, and try it even if you want to prove it wrong. And then when you're not proving it wrong, you'll go, oh, okay, now I got a benefit, and all I got to do is admit I was wrong. So I wanted to ask you something, because we were talking a little bit about health issues, and I know I was reading in your biography that you had rheumatoid arthritis, and I think there was a connection with the mind. From what I read there, it was just a brief thing, and I wanted to ask you about that, because I'm fascinated by what that was, possibly because my mother had rheumatoid arthritis, and she was kind of a negative person. And as you know, I learned from one of the greats. And she also had fibromyalgia, which is another condition that's painful. So can you talk about that a little bit? Is that something you would like to expound on?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The mind is incredibly powerful. We all know about the placebo effect. Most people just dismiss it. Oh, that's just placebo. That doesn't really work. What does it mean when that doesn't really work because you've cured yourself of something that was a placebo? It worked.
Yeah.
So why knock it? So I'm very much a strong believer in researching. I think a great deal more work needs to be done on the placebo effect. But what we do know is, just looking at the placebo effect, that the mind has the ability to heal you or to hurt you, depending on what your beliefs are. So yes, after my second son was born, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. It was a difficult period in my life. My son was 3 months old, and I was having a hard time changing his diaper because I couldn't lift his legs up with my left hand because my shoulder wouldn't work properly. So I couldn't lift his legs up to put the diaper underneath. When you're a new mother, you're going to be taking care of this child for a long time. To be incapacitated in that way was really painful. And there were lots of situations that I found myself in that it was very upsetting. But I do know about the power of the mind. And there's a technique that I like to teach. You have to take it with some caution. Okay, so I'm not into judging other people. That is not my place whatsoever. But one of the things that we do is, okay, perhaps I caused this myself. Perhaps there is a subconscious belief that caused me to develop rheumatoid arthritis. It's taking self-responsibility to its farthest limits. So I asked myself, what am I gaining out of having the RA? What am I avoiding? How am I trying to punish myself? What am I doing? And the beauty of this exercise is you don't have to share it with anybody else. You just have to explore yourself. And the more you question your own subconscious mind, the more it will give you the answers. Now, some of the answers it comes up with, first of all, can be crazy. It's not to say that every idea that pops into your mind is going to be the real one. But when the real one does come up, there is that little part of you that just knows. So I did that work for myself. I questioned what I was gaining out of it, why I was trying to punish myself for it. I looked at all of that. But then I also looked at the mind's ability to heal. I know that if I believe I can heal myself, I will drastically improve the odds in my favor. That's a much better way to say it. It's not like everything is magical. I can click my fingers. It's that deep belief. So I talked earlier about the inner talk subliminal programs we have. I worked with our accelerated healing program. I played it all night, every night for 15 months. So I talked about the negativity bias. The accelerated healing program is going to have affirmations like, I can heal myself, my body works perfectly. It's all of those kinds of affirmations that I played all night, every night. I inundated my mind with the belief that my body knew what to do to heal myself of this. So I did both of those elements. Then 15 months out, I came across a supplement, CMO. You can buy CMO at Amazon today. But at the time, Dr. Sands had just discovered it, developed it, whatever. And he was alive still at the time. So I contacted his office because I was hearing these great reviews about people who were being cured of different kinds of arthritis using CMO. I contacted his office because I was nursing my son at the time. I wanted to make sure that there were no contraindications for it. And he said, no, that was fine. Now, I had tried to come off my meds several times, and it wasn't pretty. You know, I would be in trouble within a day or two. I could have joints that would swell up. My fingers would get stuck in funky positions. It was really distressing. So I had tried that before. But then I come across this supplement and I decided I'm going to give it a go. So I take 2 tablets twice a day for 2 weeks. I come off my meds. I'm doing fine. A week afterwards, after I've completed the 2 weeks of supplements, a week afterwards, the pain came back in my shoulder. I took my meds morning, night, and morning. The pain went away. I came off the meds. The week after, the pain came back. I tried it. I took my meds twice, morning and night. pain went away. Week after that, the pain came back. I took my meds once. I've never taken them since. And that was 25 years ago.
Amazing. What is
I
CMO?
think CMO, don't ask me the chemical
Oh,
name.
okay.
It's actually what an interesting aspect of this story is that the original CMO is an extract of beef.
Okay.
Today, I'm vegan. At the time, I was vegetarian, and my family was Sikhs, but we had lots of friends and family that were Hindus. Hindus don't eat beef. I was brought up not eating beef. So when I was pregnant with my youngest son, with my oldest son, I had a craving for chicken, and I succumbed to it. I just porked out on chicken. With my youngest son, I had a craving for beef. And so I have this big push pull that is going on. I did have a McDonald's beef burger once, and my husband was amazed when I just scarfed it down. I was pregnant, okay? That's
Yeah,
my
all bets are
excuse
off.
for that. But other than that, I tried to avoid it. I did my utmost. Now I come across this supplement that is an extract of beef. Is there a correlation, a connection there? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I took this supplement and the RA went away. Now, what I believe is because, as I said, today it's available on Amazon. You can buy it. You can buy it everywhere. You can get vegetarian versions of it. If I'm recommending CMO to everyone, I will go directly. There's a clinic in San Diego where Dr. Sands was working, but they have the original CMO. So if I'm telling somebody else, I will tell them to get that particular one. I do have a friend who has arthritis and has lots of problems with his knees, and he's taking CMO regularly. He cannot come off it. He just takes it regularly. But for me, what I think happened, Bob, is I did my inner work. I looked at why I could be causing this for myself. I programmed my subconscious mind with the belief that I could heal myself. And then for me, I just needed that placebo to push me over the edge to actually affect the healing
Okay.
totally,
Yeah.
you see.
Mhm.
So, people out, if CMO really was the cure for rheumatoid arthritis, everybody would be taking
Right,
it.
exactly.
Instead, they have all of these other drugs out there. I still recommend to anyone who has rheumatoid arthritis to go through the same protocol that I went through. It worked for me. I haven't had any of those issues. I'm healthy, I'm active, I run, I do everything. But I do think sometimes you need that little push. And so I think that's what CMO did for me.
I love that. That you're not restricted to one thing. You were open to doing that. Can you tell me one of the things that you were thinking or that you came up with and you started to examine what you were getting out of having arthritis?
What had happened was I had my oldest son, and you know how they say that how you carry the baby can tell you the sex of a baby?
Yes, yes.
Oh, don't know how much truth there is in
Yeah.
that, but I do know the way I carried my second child was totally different to my first.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about the pregnancy was different. Everything. With my first, I barely showed. With the second one, I looked like I was 9 months pregnant
Are they
when I
the
was
same
6 months.
Your children, are they the same
They
sex?
are,
Okay.
but I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought because the pregnancy was so different, it was a girl.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a girl. This girl was alive in my head, Bob.
Uh-huh.
You
Okay.
know,
Mm-hmm.
I had a relationship with this girl that was in my head. Then I have my son, and I'm shocked when they say it's a boy, but it's only a split second. Like most mothers, I get that oxytocin burst. It was a split second. Welcome, William, because we had already decided what name we were going to give if by the off chance it was a boy.
What'd you say his name was?
William.
Oh, that's my son's name.
Yeah, it's a good
Oh,
name. It's a good,
yeah.
strong name. It's a
Hmm.
guardian. So I loved my son the moment he was born. My heart was filled. I had that concern, when I was pregnant with my second child, I had this big fear. How am I going to love a second child without taking away from my
Yeah,
first?
yeah, I know.
You
And
know,
your heart expands. You don't know that
it's
until it happens.
magic. It doubles. It has to
Yeah.
be one of the most spiritual experiences I've ever had in my life. But so I had this huge love and mama bear. I am mama bear. Anyone threatens my children, yeah, I'm not a pacifist for very long. If someone's going to hurt my children, I am big time mama bear. So I have my son, my second son. I love my second son with all of my heart. But this girl had been alive in my head, this daughter, this unborn child. Who was I being unfaithful? Was I being unfaithful to my son for even thinking about the girl? Was I betraying the girl because I turned all my attention to my son? There was conflict. It was conflict. I
Okay.
don't know if that actually was it, but that's what I came up with, that I
Yeah.
was punishing myself for the betrayal in both directions.
Yeah. Wow.
And once it comes to the surface, once you see it, you can let things go. And so I believe that's what happened. But I'm a kitchen sink kind of person. When there's something wrong in my life, I will use every tool at my disposal. So I did the work. I questioned my subconscious mind. I looked at all the possible benefits I could get from it. And, there wasn't there
Yeah.
wasn't benefits other than feeling sorry for myself. So I did all of that work, and then I programmed the subconscious mind, and then I used the CMO to take me over the edge and effect a full healing.
It's interesting that you mentioned feeling sorry for yourself in that last previous sentence, because that's something I'm really good at, self pity. And I remember someone saying to me, "Well, human beings don't do anything unless they're getting something out of it." And I'm like, "Well, it doesn't. Why do you like self pity?" I had to ask myself that. What am I getting out of it? And there was a lot of stuff I was getting out of it. For one, if I feel sorry for myself, I don't have to take responsibility because I've given up already. So I don't have to succeed or fail. So it's a free card to not try. That was one, and there was a comfort in feeling special, that I was a misunderstood person, and that I'm a good person, but the world misunderstands me. So I feel sorry
Yep.
for myself, and I used to call it the warm blanket of self pity. It actually felt good in one way, and it was a hard thing to look at because it required changing something. Which, who wants to do that? Especially if you don't know what the results are going to be. But that was an interesting take on it, that human beings don't do anything unless they're getting something out of it.
That's it. It makes sense to you on some level. And when you're feeling sorry for yourself, then it's somebody else's fault. So you're not
Yeah.
responsible for your life circumstances. When you take full responsibility for everything, it opens up doorways, it opens up opportunities for for getting through it,
Yeah.
for making the world better. When it's somebody else's fault, there's nothing you can do. When it's the fault of your genes, there's nothing you can do about it. But when you take responsibility, you will find out that there are other things that you can do.
I was talking to a guy today. He called me up about some stuff that wasn't going right in his life, in his career. And he was really, really, he goes, "I'm really going through it, man." And I said, one of the things I wish I would have learned much younger, and I'm not sure how I could have learned it more, was that you're going to hear no a lot more than you're going to hear yes from the world. And I said the interesting thing about that, because when you're a little kid and if you got decent parents, as most people do, you're going to hear yes a lot as a child. Before you get into the world, you're going to be taken care of, and so that's all yeses. As certainly as an infant, and well into, even the teenage years. And so you don't get those lessons that the world, what is perceived as harshness. It's not, but it's perceived as harshness. That you're going to, I'm talking about career here, that you're going to hear no a lot more than you're going to hear yes. And it's not personal even. It's just the way that it is. And he was really, hitting it hard today because he had gotten a big no, and it was really bugging him. I made a career mistake. Why did I do this? I could have made more money doing this other thing that was paying me more before I changed the career. He had a list. He had a list, and I totally related to it. I mean, I knew exactly because I'd been there many, many times.
There's also a different perspective. You can view the experience differently. Ellen Langer has done this work on mindfulness. And one of the things that she says that really hit home to me is there's no such thing as doing the right thing. It's about doing the right thing right. So in the example of your friend, I know that sounds a bit confusing. In the example of your friend, he's saying, why did I do this? I messed up my career. You don't know that you messed up your career. You don't know what would have happened if you had taken that other path. You don't know. You made the best choice you could with the information that you had, and it could well still be the better choice for you. Who knows, if you'd had that other career opportunity, maybe you would have hated it. So making the right choice right is about your attitude towards the choice. So he had made this choice. He's regretting the choice that he made, and that is not doing it right, because there isn't any point regretting. You don't know. You don't know. There isn't any way to put the clock back and redo it. You don't know what your life would look like. You don't know where you would go. You haven't got the faintest idea. And so appreciate that, and appreciate yourself for having made the best decision that you could and having the experience that you gained from it going forward with that. Take the positive out of what has happened.
I said, well, you made a choice already to get out of the thing you did do because you didn't like it enough. You wanted to try this other thing. And to me, I sort of kind of go to the end of my life sometimes, and I think about, not in a morbid way, but like I'm laying there on my deathbed, if that's the way it's going to go. And the idea that to me, it'd be worse to try something new that you were excited about and not have it go well or the way you want it to, that would be much better than wondering if you could have done something and you didn't do it. You didn't try. That to me was, and I've had that thought a lot, almost with everything I've done. It's like, I don't want to die not having tried this, because I'm not going to, I get the one shot. I mean, we can talk about reincarnation some other time, but we get that one shot with this particular incarnation to do these things. And I've always had that feeling of, I got to know if I could do this. It's too exciting not to try it. But then when then the day-to-day sort of machinations of these things can be a real grind, because everything that involves work has terrible days, or days where you just don't like it, or it's not going your way. But I just never wanted to wonder at the end. You're a curious person. You probably had other choices, and you went, I'm fascinated with the mind, and I don't care what anybody says. I'm gonna find out. And you never thought about, I'm sure you didn't think about the money when you went into it. You thought about, this is really fascinating, and I'm going to do it, and no one's going to stop me. I can tell, because you basically kind of said that.
I did. I do. My whole life changed drastically when I met my husband. Actually, it changed prior to that, because I attended a presentation. I used to work in the path lab. My degree's in microbiology. And we had this lecturer come around talking about hypnotherapy. And I had always thought hypnosis was a joke. That was something people did for entertainment on the stage. But this one presentation where he actually talked about how past conflicts, past pains can have an influence on your present experience,
Yeah.
that had a huge impact on me. And it was from there that I went and had hypnotherapy myself. I learned about hypnotic drawing, hypnotic writing. I found that fascinating. So then I did a 3-year course in hypnotherapy myself. And that was where I met my husband. So it was like the trajectory of my life changed drastically. And I wouldn't change a single thing about it. But I do want to say, Bob, you talk about how you think about what thoughts you'll have on your deathbed. I do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do the same thing. And mine is more about, will I have regrets? It's about doing my best at every
Yeah.
moment. If you've done your best with the information that you have. So I often think on my deathbed, will I be happy with this decision? So, I will fight the good fight. Sometimes it's like, trying to push a boulder uphill. Sometimes things can be difficult, but when it's for a cause that I believe in, when it's helping someone that I truly care about, I will move heaven and earth for it, because I have this thought on my deathbed: will I be happy that if I took the easy way or the hard way?
Well, that's, parents have a tendency, at least mine did, to steer me toward safety. A career that was safer than other careers, because, and you do need money. You do need certain things to survive. And they really were frightened by the fact that I was going into, I became a stand-up comedian. That's what I did for like 15 years. I was a musician, and then I was a stand-up comedian. These are all sort of risky professions, but I had to do it. And I remember my dad talking to me. He said, I'm worried about it. I said, I know you are, because, everybody wants their kid to do well. I said, but I have to do it. I can't not do it. And if it tanks, then it tanks, and I'll pivot. I'll do something else. There's consequences to everything you do. I'm not saying they're all negative, but, you have to leave people behind. You have to leave situations. You have to, not do certain things because you have, so it's not just like super easy. There's a challenge to it, to giving up safety. So it's an interesting thing how we sort of come in, we incarnate in whatever it is, genetics, ancestral history, certain experiences, and then we have to figure out, what do I want to be? It's the big question. Well, how do I want to spend this limited time that I have? And it's not for somebody else. I know. It's not for other people.
No, I agree. You have to try those things. It's better to try and fail than not to try at all and wonder what would have happened.
So let's talk about what people can do in their search for more information, and I think that's your programs and your book and all that kind of stuff. Let's do a little promotion here, a little shameless promotion.
Well, I appreciate that, Bob. The book is Mind Training: The Science of Self-Empowerment. In mind training, I go through all of these different areas. I do cover a great deal of science, but at the end of each chapter, I provide a summary that explains why that information was important. And then I also provide techniques that you can put into practice. All the theoretical information in the world isn't going to do anything until you start applying it. So I wanted to make this very, very practical. Most of the techniques are really simple. It's a case of learning what it means, learning how to put it in your life, and then habituating it so that it becomes automatic to you. The longest exercise I have in mind training will take you 12 minutes. That is the longest. Everything else, once you've implemented it, once you've figured out how to incorporate it in your life, then it all becomes automatic. So the book title is Mind Training, The Science of Self-Empowerment. You can get it at all bookstores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you like to buy. You can learn more about me by going to my website. That is ravindertaylor.com. If you read Mind Training, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it and your experiences with it. So you can email me, ravinder@ravindertaylor.com. That makes that really simple. And then if you want to learn more about the Inner Talk programs that I was talking about, just go to innertalk.com. That's INNERTALK, as in talking to yourself. Innertalk.com. You can learn all about the technology, the science behind it there. There's a banner on there that will take you to the Inner Talk store. We have about 500 different titles that just, do a search for the keyword, whatever you're thinking about: depression, attitude, math, relationships, whatever gets your fancy. It's organized by category as well. So explore around there. When you change the programming in your subconscious mind, when your inner beliefs change, then your life experience really does change.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks, Bob. It's been a pleasure being with you.
Much appreciation for you folks listening to The Exploding Human. The website is theexplodinghuman.com. You can also listen on YouTube. That is The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman. Once again, I want to thank Ravinder Taylor for being on the show. Please check out her book, Mind Training, The Science of Self-Empowerment, and you can also find out more at ravindertaylor.com. Have a fantastic day. Thank you.